unleashing the battle of titans, micro versus macro. Are you ready to witness the ultimate showdown in the world of economics? In one corner, we have microeconomics, the master of households, firms, and market battles. And in the other corner, we have macroeconomics, the heavyweight champ of inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. Get ready for an exhilarating clash as we dive into the thrilling world of economics, where individual units collide with the overall behavior of the economy. Buckle up, because this epic battle is about to take you on a wild educational roller coaster ride you won't forget. Get ready to choose your side and join the frenzy of micro versus macro. Let the economic showdown begin. Let the battle commence. Macroeconomics is the study of how a national economy works, with a view to understanding the interaction between growth in national income, employment, and price inflation. Microeconomics examines the economic behavior of individual consumers, households, and businesses, and how individual markets work. Macroeconomics and microeconomics are very closely related. The national or macroeconomy of a country is made up of many different markets for goods and services, and therefore changes in the behavior of consumers and businesses will affect the overall level of economic growth, employment, and price inflation in the macroeconomy. I normally say to my students, always remember that the macroeconomy affects the micro, but the micro in how they are interacting can also affect the macro. That is why they are very closely related. Now, in microeconomics, we will look at a few things. So we will look at how, for example, individual firms organize production and why. Because remember, we're looking at individual businesses, right? Individual smaller components in the whole economy. So we also look at what determines the wages paid to different groups of workers. So here, for instance, we'll look at things like wage differentials, or the wage theory, as it's also known as, where we're going to look at why do different groups of individuals get paid different amounts. So why would a doctor get paid more than a street sweeper? Then we will also look at what affects the purchasing decisions of individual consumers. So again, remember, the definition said we are looking at individual components. So we're looking at things like consumers. So consumers, how they make certain decisions, that will all impact the rest of the micro. So and then businesses will respond to that as well. Then we will also look at what determines the prices of different goods and services. So again, demand and supply for goods and services, graphs about demand and supply, the price mechanism, those type of things. We will also look at how decisions and actions of different consumers, firms, and households affect others. Then we will also look at how government policies and actions can affect the decisions and behaviors of individual consumers, producers, and households. In macroeconomics, we will also consider a lot of different aspects, such as determinants of total output of all firms in an economy. So we'll look at things like GDP, how it's measured, etc. The total of national income and factors that causes this to change over time. So we will look at why the national income has changed during the recession times, for example. Then we will also look at determinants of overall level of employment and unemployment. We will also look at causes of inflation, the general level of prices and its impact on the economy. We will look at government influence in consumer spending, the rate of price inflation, the level of employment, and the total output of all firms in the economy. The impact of changes in taxes and government spending on an economy is part of our fiscal policy, and government also has a monetary policy. They have some supply side policies, but this is part of the fiscal policy. And we're also going to look at reasons for the differences in living standards between countries. So those are things that we look at, like HDI, so the Human Development Index. And we're also going to look at population growth and how it affects different countries. Some countries obviously have a very high population growth rate, and that is normally countries that are very undeveloped or less developed. And then there are countries that are very developed, and you'll see that their population growth is a lot lower than the rural countries. Then we can also look at things like countries engaging in international trade and the impact of this on their macroeconomies. Here we will look at aspects such as balance of payments, how exchange rates are formed between different countries. We will also look at things like absolute and comparative advantage, specialization, those type of things. So to summarize, if I had to draw a circle and I had little bits and pieces inside of the circle, those little bits and pieces would be seen as the micro. So if I had to look at a cell underneath a microscope, those little itsy bitsy little pieces are seen as the micro. And the micro is normally your individual businesses, your households, as we stated. So the micro is affected by the macro in your economy. So the macroeconomic concepts are things like inflation, GDP, unemployment, exchange rates, balance of payments, all aspects that the micro has no control over. It's outside factors, whether they be government controlled or international trade related, doesn't matter. We as the individual components in the micro cannot control the macro, but the micro in how they are interacting. So imagine you have individual businesses and they're obviously trading with each other, they're trading overseas, which affects the exchange rates and all of those things. So the micro with their interaction can actually affect the macro and how the macro will respond to the micro, if that makes sense. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you understand micro and macro a little bit better, and that now you can decide who won, macro or micro. In my eyes, macro wins because I'm a macroeconomist, but maybe you feel differently, or maybe you're just at the start of your economics career. You still have to figure out which one you like more. Nothing wrong with liking both, but normally people specialize in the one or the other, but they are both very important concepts, as you know. So it is important to understand both of them. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.